Okay, let's talk about adjectives. Adjectives are nothing new. You've been using them since French 1. We just want to go over the things that you already know and maybe reinforce some of the things that you've learned. Add a few new adjectives to the mix. There will be a little bit new at the end, so be prepared for that. You might want to take a piece of paper and take notes of any new adjectives or new patterns that you come across. All right, so you know adjectives describe nouns or pronouns. They answer the question which or what kind or how many or whose. We're not talking here about articles, which are specialized adjectives that always start the phrase, like le, la, les, un, une, des, ce, cette, ces, and all the possessives, mon, ma, mes, ton, ta, tes, votre, vos. Those are also types of adjectives, but they are special, and we're not going to talk about those right now. We're just going to talk about the adjectives that actually describe. You know that the adjective has to agree with the noun or pronoun it modifies, both in gender and in number. You also know that to the basic masculine form, the way that you make it feminine is normally to add an E. And you also know that there are exceptions to that rule. So here are several of the exceptions. Most adjectives form the feminine by adding E, but if the masculine form already ends in a silent E, then of course you don't add a second one. So belge and jaune, bizarre, drôle, difficile, facile, all these adjectives that end in a silent E, those stay just the same. The masculine and feminine are not different. If it ends in X, then you'll replace that X with an SE for the feminine so that you get dangereux, dangereuse, heureux, heureuse, merveilleux, merveilleuse. We've had lots and lots of those. That's a familiar pattern. Most masculine forms that end in F change to VE in the feminine, which is, by the way, the form that we adopt into the English language most of the time. So you start with naïf, you become naïve, actif, active, sportif, sportive, and neuf, neuve. Now, notice here that neuf does not mean the number 9. It means new, like the Pont Neuf in Paris is the new bridge. Then you have the pattern where they double the consonant before they add the E. So you have adjectives that end in EL or EN or ON. When you add that E, you're going to double the consonant for pronunciation purposes. So actuel, actuelle, cruel, cruelle. The only difference in sound there is that you sort of let the L last a little bit longer. Bon, bonne, mignon, mignonne, italien, italienne. All of the nationalities like Tunisien, Canadien, Vietnamien, they all follow that same pattern. In addition, you have these words gentil, nice, pareil, similar, nul, none, that also double their final L before the E. So gentil, pareil, nul. You sort of lengthen that L sound or the Y sound on all of those. Some of the masculine adjectives that end in S, not all of them, but some of them, double their S before they add E. So you have gras, which means fat, like Mardi Gras, Fat Tuesday, means fatty, like fatty meat and stuff like that, becomes grasse. Bas, which means low, becomes basse. Épais means thick, becomes épaisse. And gros, which means fat, like overweight fat, becomes grosse. You know that not all of the adjectives that end in S do this, however, because you have adjectives like gris, which means gray, but when it's feminine you say grise, and you have just one S and that Z sound instead. So not all of them double their S. Then you have the masculine adjectives that end in ER. When you add an E to those, you also add an accent. So you have dernier, dernière, premier, première, étranger, étrangère. And étranger means strange or foreign. Léger, légère. Léger means light, either lightweight or light in importance or not important or not heavy. Then you have masculine adjectives that end in That's very much a noun pattern, like serveur and those sort of nouns. The same thing happens with the adjectives. So if you have flatteur, it becomes flatteuse, trompeur, trompeuse. And then you have masculine adjectives that end in ET or OT. Here, some of them do one thing, some of them do another. Some double the T and add E. Some add an E and add an accent, just like the ER did. So you have coquet, which means flirtatious and coquette, muet, which means mute or silent, and muette, violet, violette. But then you have some that don't double it, they add an accent instead, complet, complète, discret, discrète, inquiet, inquiète, secret, secrète. So you have all of those. Inquiet means worried. And then you know that some adjectives just have strange feminine forms that you have to learn. So most of these you're already familiar with. You might take a look at doux. The fourth one down becomes douce, which the X normally is an SE, but here they wanted a S sound. So it's not douce, it's douce. So it's a CE, not an SE. You have favori that adds the TE there. You have fou that becomes folle. Frais, when you take the S away in fresh, you have to add the housetop. Franc and franche are the same as blanc and blanche. Then you have some that take a QUE like grec and public. And then roux and rousse, sec and sèche, and vieux and vieille. And you know that there are some adjectives that just never change. They don't become feminine, they don't become plural, they just sort of sit there. So here is a list of those. Another one that could have been on that list was bon marché. Now, how do you make them plural? You know that first you make them feminine if you need to, and then to the masculine or feminine singular you add an S. That's the general pattern, but there are, of course, exceptions. So, for example, if the masculine singular adjective already has an S that's silent, or an X, which is also silent, then you don't add a silent S onto those consonants. So, paresseux stays paresseux, and gris stays gris. Adjectives that end in EAU, like beau and nouveau, add an X when they form their masculine plural. So you put an X on the end, which is a silent X. Then most masculine singular adjectives that end in AL, not all of them, but most of them, change that AL to AUX. So we have national, nationaux, génial, géniaux, social, sociaux. But these 5 do not do that. Banal, fatal, final, natal, and naval. Naval, of course, means related to the sea. Natal has to do with your birth. Final is obvious. Fatal is obvious. Banal means sort of low class, sort of not, I don't know, good. Banal, I mean, we use the word banal in English, so look it up. Okay, les examens final. Notice it's not finaux, it's final. So you just add the S. Leur pays natal, their birth countries, their homelands, would be with an S. So if you have adjectives in the sentence, where do they go? You know they go after their noun, except for the ones in the bags. Beauty, age, good and bad, and size. Now, we've put a few more in our bag, so make sure you look down the list there. We have gentil, that we didn't have before, long, which we didn't have before, and gros, that's another one, and jeune, meaning young. Okay, so all of those go in the bags, and there will be a few more that don't fit the bags but also come before the noun. I put asterisks by beau and nouveau and vieux because you know that those 3 have that special hybrid form, so that when the masculine form comes before something with a vowel, you have to use that feminine sounding form even though you try and make it look a little bit more masculine. Now, here are your other exceptions. If it's a number, if it's an ordinal number like second, third, fourth. And there are also a few common ones that always come before the noun. So here we have autre, other, l'autre côté, the other side. Chaque, which means every or each. So chaque jour means every day, each and every day. Plusieurs and quelque both mean several. Quelque means some, like in quelque chose, but here it's being used plurally, so there's an S on the end of quelque, and then it comes before the noun there. And tel means such a one, such, like, it emphasizes it. So, il a raconté une telle histoire, he told such a story, you wouldn't believe it. Okay, notice that tel also doubles its L in the feminine. So what if you have more than one noun for each more than one adjective for each noun? Well, you put each one where it belongs. If it goes before, you put it before. If it goes after, you put it after. That's not a big deal. So c'est un grand bateau noir. It's a big black boat. However, if you have two that go before or two that go after, that's okay too. You just put the word a in between. So c'est un long et mauvais livre. It's a long, bad book. C'est une fille honnête et sensible. She's a honest and sensitive girl. Now here's the part that you're not going to like. There are some adjectives that you can either put before or you can put them after, but it changes the meaning just a little bit depending on where you put it. So take ancien, for example, which means ancient, very old. But if you put it before the noun, it means former. It used to be that way, but it's not anymore. So if you say an ancien soldat, that's a former soldier, a veteran. But if you say un soldat ancien, that means a soldier who's very, very, very old. Okay? So une église ancienne is a very, very old church. But une ancienne église would be a building that used to be used as a church, but is now no longer used as a church. Okay, so that's the difference. So in all of these pairs, or all of these adjectives with the double meanings, I've put the first meaning first for if you put the adjective before the noun, and then the second one in the parentheses is what it would mean after the noun. Okay, so read through those and see what you think of those. It's sometimes a very subtle difference in the translation. Sometimes not quite so subtle, but most of the time it's quite a subtle difference. So you just have to get a feel for those. So there's ancien, certain, pauvre, prochain, and cher. Take a look at those examples. And then there's also propre, which means either it's your property or it's clean. Seul, which means like the one and only or just the act of just being alone. Okay, vrai, which means genuine or real, and then true, as in not false. Dernier can mean either the last one in a series, or if you put it after, it means the previous one to what your reference point is, usually the time that you're talking. Même can mean the same, like identical, or it can mean that very one, pointing it out. Okay, so look down those phrases and see if you can see the difference between them. So it's time to practice. So I have a link here to an exercise on adjectives, and I would like you to do that. This is an assignment. So you need to, when you get a minute here, click on the link. Go ahead and fill in all the things that you're asked to fill in on the form, and then make sure that you submit it when you are finished. That's how I'll know that you have completed it.